What's going on, guys? It's GBP baby. Welcome back to another weekly review and forecast. I hope everybody's doing well. Hopefully you watched last week's forecast, and as you can see, price delivered just as anticipated with an up close candle and us taking out our targeted highs of wanting to see the previous week's high get taken out, and then we also ran out these highs quite nicely last week as well. So beautiful delivery last week. Let's see if we can keep it with the consistency as we approach the dreaded month of December. And yeah, I'm going to clear the charts just because of fresh week and whatnot. And now that we have another up close, I'm still bullish. So as far as I'm concerned, we should assume another up close candle, and then we can start looking for premium PD arrays. So right now I have my eye set on this high. It'd be nice to see if price can trade up into there. So I'm going to get that marked out as buy side liquidity. And then I'm also paying very close attention to this down close candle, more specifically the high of this down close candle. And what I'm looking for is I want to see if price can tap into it very lightly below it to create the low, if at all. And then I want to see a strong reaction away from it. So that's basically what I'm looking for, but nonetheless I'm expecting continued expansion to the upside. So let's go down to the daily, and you'll see we've had a lot of up close candles. But after 4 up close days like this, we need to be cautious with our bullishness, because it's very likely we're going to get some kind of drawback or some kind of run on stop. So it's probably going to engineer in some liquidity, and like I said, pull back into that weekly high, which I believe is going to be quite sensitive to price. You can see just below it on the daily is a fair value gap in the discount. Now, I'm not expecting price to necessarily trade down into this discount PD array, because as far as I'm concerned, we don't necessarily need to go all the way down into there. However, I am expecting us to pull back to some extent within this range. And as we drop down to the 4 hour, hopefully we can take a closer look. Now, what we do also need to take into account is that we have traded into a bearish order block right here. However, because we're bullish on a higher time frame, we're expecting us to be able to trade through bearish order block. So this is a bearish order block. We expect that price should be able to comfortably trade through it and run for buy side liquidity. So with that taken into account, let's drop down to the 4 hour, see what we can find. And you can see that we've kind of entered a bit of consolidation. It's very well we might rally a bit more, and it's very well as well we might find that most expansion happens on the downside. So price might flutter out, it might fail to reach buy side liquidity this week, and then we might find that we get a run back on stops, and in that case that's when we can start targeting these lows and that daily fair value gap. So moving into Tuesday, what I'm expecting, price could very well take out Monday's high. However, looking at this displacement, it all depends on how we treat this fair value gap, which we're currently trading in right here. So we're kind of messing about inside of that. If we get above it, then I'm expecting probably another leg up to expand to the upside. But if we fail to trade through this fair value gap, then there's no reason for me not to expect that we can start looking for shorts on dollar with the expectation to run out these relative equal lows, which have been engineered in here. I'll just mark that out as sell side liquidity with a thin line. And like I said, this red level, remember, is that weekly high that I'm anticipating price to want to draw to eventually. So something to take into account. One other thing I want to get marked out is the Sunday opening price, which is right over here. So that's the Sunday opening price. You can see that we're rallying above it right now, and the fact that price is already used as support here, like I said, we might stay up here, maybe moving into Tuesday or Wednesday, but then on the back of it, I wouldn't be surprised if price wanted to run for it, using it as a draw on liquidity to get down below that south side liquidity and pushing down in towards the south side later on in the week. So that's going to be everything. I hope that makes sense. I will be posting daily this week as well, guys, so do stay tuned. Make sure you have post notifications turned on. I know I didn't post last week, but that's something to take into account. It all depends on how we treat this fair value gap, so we're paying very close attention to it. Like I said, if price is struggling to trade through it comfortably, then there's no reason for me not to anticipate that price is likely going to continue to roll over, run for that Sunday opening price, use it as resistance, and start to expand down into the sell stops and towards this red weekly high, which I was talking about. So that's going to be everything on dollar. I hope that all makes sense. Let's head on to GBP USD. And we'll start here on the weekly as well. And we had, again, beautiful week last week. I wanted to see a down close candle. We got exactly that. We traded up into a bearish order block open. Look at that, beautiful. What did we hit? 25% level. I spoke about all of this in last week's weekly review. If you haven't watched it, go and watch it and see how I called it, because look at that, 25% level. And if you've watched me for a while, you'll know I always pick up 25% level, and I say price hits 50% level, that's fine. 25% level suggests a lot of bearishness, and that's what we got. Beautiful large expansion to the downside. So I'm expecting the same again as we continue to push on into the downside on the weekly level. We have just taken out stops below here, but like I said, we might want to flutter around and start getting below this weekly low and this range. Like I'm looking at this large wick right now. I'm not from quite a while ago, but I'm looking at this 50% level basically, and just below it. And as we drop down to a low time frame, I'll take a closer look on that. So My eyes, I'm showing you exactly what my eyes are drawn to. I'm drawn to this, and I'm drawing to this, basically. I'm looking at the 50% level of this as well. So I'm going to get a few things marked out. First, let me draw the 50% level of this wick, because I expect that price may want to try and use this to some extent, and I'll try and talk more on that as we drop down to a lower time frame. And in terms of discount PDRAs, I am looking at this as potential sell side, but generally speaking between this range, more specifically as in between this open and this low, to see if price wants to dip down into there. So let's go down to the daily now. And you can see that we're rolling over quite nicely towards that sell side liquidity. Again, this is an order block. Why? Down then up. So we can look at this whole range as an order block, and the lowest I want to see price trade is the 50% level, which has also got a nice fair value gap. So let's go back up to the weekly just to take a closer look. And yeah, it's not exactly ideal, so I'm going to keep it on the daily. And I'm basically looking at these down close candles. So let's just mark this out. We're going to mark out the 50% level, and I'm going to be interested to see how price acts if it does manage to trade down into there. Because if we can get a reversal on the back of this midpoint, that would be nice. And then, like I said, if we hit the 25% level, that would be even better, because that will then support the idea that price is going to want to return up into the premium, up into this level I just marked out. So I know I've marked out a lot of levels here. I'm gonna try and keep this a little bit more clear. So let's get rid of this 50% level. Right now, I want to see if price does want to tap down into here, in this fair value gap on the daily. And like I said, if it fills it, I'd like to think that I can leave it again and pull back into this range, because we are looking quite bearish right now. So it might want to create some kind of low maybe, and then trickle back out into the nice premiums and back into this wick from the weekly, which I just spoke about, because I'm anticipating that price may want to play around with here. And then another thing to take note of as well is I'm going to be looking at, I'm going to be looking at the Sunday opening price as well. So let's get that marked out. So Sunday's opening price is right here. And you can see how price is treating it currently. And you can see it's finding resistance. So like I said, so long as we're below here, when we get to Wednesday, if we're still below it and we haven't reversed yet, I'd expect a nice reversal maybe on the back of high impact news, trade higher, and then we can quite comfortably target relative equal highs above here and running up into this target, which I said from the weekly, the midpoint of a large wick can be used as a PDRA. Also, we have some nice high impact news with interest rates this week. I didn't even realize interest rate decisions are this week. So that's probably going to, if we're still in the discount and we still haven't traded above Sunday and it gets to the 6th of November, is that what day we are now? On the 4th, 5th, 6th. So yeah, so if it gets to Tuesday, Wednesday, so if it gets to Thursday and we're still below that Sunday opening price, I'd expect us to be able to start expanding into that. But hopefully we should have a little bit more insight as to where we're anticipating price. But other than that, right now I'm expecting price to comfortably roll over into the new day, into this fair value gap. And like I said, it'll be nice if it gets stopped dead in its tracks here, because that would be very supportive. It can drop lower, but ideally it doesn't, because that will show that we're in for a nice reversal on the back of it and we can think about it. But we should start seeing it, step its way down, as in it should start creating engineering liquidity as it works its way down into here if we are going to get a reversal. If we're not going to get a reversal at this point, then it'll probably be more aggressive as it trades lower, but we'll have to take a closer look tomorrow. So that's going to be everything on pound. I hope that will make sense. Let's go on finish on Euro USD. Again, beautiful. Look at that, guys. You can't make this stuff up, can you? Beautiful delivery last week. I do encourage you to watch last week's weekly review. And you can see that Euro's showing a bit more strength, but nonetheless, we still anticipate it to trade to some level now. I'm not expecting us to run all the way down into these lows. Remember, I'm expecting us to reach some kind of level in the discount. I do want to see a down close, but looking at the way price is moving, I wouldn't be surprised if it was a bit of a, if there's not too much movement. We are already nearing the 50% level, so I'll get that delineated, but I'll also get the 75% level delineated as well. Unless, of course, the high impact news that we have this week drives price crazy, and then I want to see us potentially return back into its current trading range. So daily again, quite aggressively already falling into that level. We are playing around in an inversion fair value gap right now, so we anticipate high resistance. So if we look at this gap, drag that through, you can see it's been traded on the downside and on the upside, and we've just entered it. So I expect high resistance within this range. Ideally, we can fill it and then leave it. It's not as clean as dollar and GBP in terms of my expectations as to where price is going to trade to, because it could very well come down into here, and there is technically a breaker at the bottom of it. So I'm happy for price to dip down into the lows of it. I'm going to get rid of this level because ideally price doesn't need to go all the way down there, but I am conscious that within this range I want to see some kind of reverse on the back of it, assuming that dollar, continues to rally to some extent, high resistance, and then pull back into its range. But yeah, I think after Tuesday, things will be a lot more clear. Here's the hourly, and you can see how we're trading again towards this breaker, low, high, lower, low. So it'll be nice to see if price wants to tap into the low of this fair value gap, and then depending on the time and day, relative equal lows and everything, it makes sense for us to be down here. But can we get back again? I'm going to mark out the Sunday opening price, which should help us quite a lot. So let's get that Sunday opening price marked out, which is right over here. I usually make it dotted, and I'll make it brighter red. And again, we're respecting it for now. But if we get to Wednesday, moving into Thursday, and we're still below it, and we start seeing a reversal form at the right time, no reason we can't go long and target this Sunday opening price to run price. If we run, I doubt we're going to run above it tomorrow, to be honest, especially looking at how weak we are already. We're probably going to spend some time down there. So that's going to be everything, guys. I hope that all makes sense. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to drop a like, drop a comment, smash subscribe, join the mailing list, join the Discord. All the links are in the description, and I'll catch you guys tomorrow. Peace.